Ararie obunrioma, ararie obunrioma. Aru Christi, aru nenyendo, nararie obunrioma, ararie obunrioma. Anemo.
Some Greeks who came to Jerusalem for the feast wanted to see Jesus, and they went to Philip. When they told Jesus, Jesus said, "Now the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." Glory to Jesus. As all of you know, this is my beloved passage in the gospel as bishop, because it is from here that I took my episcopal motto: we want to see Jesus. Volumus Jesum videre. We want to see Jesus. And I have explained that we represents myself, all the faithful and the diocese, priests, religious, and lay people, all the other people in this diocese who are not even Christians or Catholics, our culture. And I believe everybody on the face of this world wants to see Jesus, even when he or she does not clearly realize that it is Jesus he's looking for. I have had occasion to reflect deeply on this in my Lenten pastoral letter. We want to see Jesus. If you have a copy, it may be an occasion for you to pick up that little pamphlet and go through it again to remind yourself or refresh your memory of the things I said about this theme in relation to my entire pastoral project as Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Nsukka. Today, however, I would want to draw your attention to one little aspect of this request by the Greeks. But before then, let us return to the context, how this thing happened. Go back to chapter 11 of John's Gospel. Chapter 11 of John's Gospel tells us the story of the resurrection of Lazarus by Jesus. After having risen Lazarus from the dead, there was such a public acclaim of Jesus that the leaders, religious leaders of the time, the Pharisees and the chief priests, got visibly threatened and nervous. And they said at the end of that chapter, "Look, are we doing nothing about this man? The entire crowd is following him. And if we do nothing, the Romans will come and take over here." And they made up their mind not only to eliminate Jesus, but also to eliminate Lazarus, who was responsible for all this popularity. And how did Jesus reply to that? Within that context of opposition, he mounted an ass, a donkey, and entered Jerusalem to confront these men, because the hour he knew had come. This is according to John's own recording of events. He mounted and entered Jerusalem, and everybody was shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed he who comes in the name of the Lord." There was visible tension everywhere. Even Pilate was on the alert. Because it was close to the feast of Passover. And when Passover happens, all the Jews, during the Passover feast, all the Jews come home from wherever they can. If you remember what happened at Pentecost, which was shortly after Passover, there were Jews from Egypt, from Rome, from Carthage, from very far places. The same thing, because the Passover feast was celebrated only in Jerusalem. So they had all to congregate in Jerusalem, and the city was bustling with life. And even criminals, revolutionaries, revolution leaders, all took the opportunity of the Passover to send across their message and to destabilize the society. Among those who came for this feast were some Greeks. We are told they came for worship. Even though Paul will later tell us in his first letter to the Corinthians that the Jews only look for miracles like Nigerian Christians. They are not looking for anything except miracles. Show us a sign. And you show them a sign. They ask for another. No number of miracles will take you to heaven anyway. I've told you this a number of times. Nobody is converted through miracles. You know, when we were younger, we were told that 4 corners make 1 goal. You can kick 21 corners and you will yet not score any goal. No number of miracles will take you to heaven. It is when you go beyond those miracles and express your faith in the source of those miracles. That is what will lead you to a conversion that will take you to heaven. Nothing else. Anyway, while the Jews are looking for miracles, Paul tells us the Greeks are looking for wisdom. You remember in the history, those who are familiar with GS, General Studies in the university or history of philosophy, for the Europeans, philosophy started in Greek. Even though that is not correct. Philosophy, nobody knows where it started because every human being is a philosopher of a sort. So the Greeks were famous for wisdom, for their philosophy. But what were these Greeks looking for that they wanted to see Jesus? We don't know. Now, let's come to Nsukka. We are gathered in the cathedral for a very important feast. And the bishop is there with all the priests of the diocese. And in the middle of the feast, we have just finished Mass, or maybe even about to begin Mass. 2 or some, because we don't know how many they were, some Fulani headsmen come into the cathedral and say, meet you, and they say, we want to see the bishop. What will you do? Number 1, you go TRS. Oh, we excited. Because bishop. We want to see the bishop. And that but the cause of many of our problems. You will think twice. Okay, that may be an exaggerated situation. Let us even take it that you are just in the chapel, in your parish, and you are praying. And while you are praying, somebody comes into the church. And you look and you recognize that this person is a notorious armed robber. Or a cultist everybody knows. And he tells you, I want to see the parish priest. Your first tendency will be to tell him, I don't know where he is. I'm a Mbono. Je Juma Umofada. Because you are already judging his intention. It may not even be an armed robber or a cultist. You are working in the Father's house. You may be a cook. You may be a cleaner. You may be his secretary. You are a woman. And one girl or a woman whom everybody knows in the community. Temptation on everything demand. She has destroyed so many families. Any man not target her, the marriage is gone. And she comes dressed very seductively and comes and tells you, I want to see Father. How will you react? Ishi obrnaga kaikeu. Ishi ne lilede ileru enoko si hiran gemeg. Yabni vrihi ne merutebe Father. Come on, Sheba for. Philip, we are told, was from Bethsaida in Galilee. And Bethsaida, we are told, was inhabited also by many Greeks. So it's possible those people recognized Philip. But don't forget, John chapter 1 verse 43 and 44 will tell us that Philip was from Bethsaida, the same town as Andrew and Peter, his brother. So now because also Philip, why did they go to Philip? Why would this person come to you, of all people, and tell you, I want to see Father, or I want to see Bishop? And we can Philip reacted to certain things. His reaction are somehow spontaneous. When he encountered Christ, in John chapter 1 verse 43, he went and called Nathanael. Philip, so he went and called Nathanael and told him, come and see. We have met this man. Is it possible he's the Messiah? From Nazareth. And we know how Nathanael asked him, can anything good come from Nazareth? But in John chapter 6, when Jesus told them that they needed to feed the crowd, Philip's immediate reaction was, look, where do we get bread to feed all these people? How much do we need? You want to put us into trouble? Are you asking us to arrange for the feeding of these people? It was Andrew who, rather than panic and just highlight the crisis and the difficulty, Andrew said, chapter 6 verse 5, anyway, there is a little boy here. He has some bread and some fish. At least something is here. So it's possible that Philip, knowing himself and knowing Andrew, when they told him, when these difficult strangers he could not really explain came to him and said, we want to see Jesus. He said, Andrew, you know now, this thing who say to you, no, we're going to make any joke. I'm kuma one came as nema bia. Biagde. You know what he went and consulted somebody whom he thought would be a help in that moment of difficulty. How many people do you turn to who are really helpful to you when you are in difficulty about the right action to take? Or are you always consulting those who will worsen your situation? God gave us companion so that they will be our help in moments of difficulty. And together, Philip and Andrew went and told Jesus. Otito diri Jesu. There is something that somebody has called the suspenses of the gospel. There are so many unconcluded stories in the gospel because we do not know how this story ended. Did those Greeks eventually see Jesus? The gospel is silent about it. But even before we know how it ended, already this story is very instructive to us, or for us. People that you may not be expecting are really looking for Jesus. Those kidnappers, those armed robbers, those prostitutes and loose girls and women whom you have judged already, like Mary of Magdala, from whom 7 demons were cast out, like the woman who was a sinner, who was looking for Jesus and was weeping, like Zacchaeus, who was a corrupt politician and policeman and tax collector and finance officer, whom nobody thought would have anything to do with this man. He was looking for him. And if he comes to you, please, I want to see Jesus. If he asks you, he wants to see the bishop, he wants to see the priest, you may not know what intention he has. But when he now asks you, I want to see Jesus. Okay, let's take it from there. Abasoka now, after this mass, you walk out and you encounter these houses of Fulanis who sell things along the road. And one of them stops in front of you. And instead of telling you to buy what he's selling, he tells you, please, I want to see Jesus. What will you do? Mmadụ bịakwute gị now. Onye ga-abụghị onye ụka. O doro gị anya na ọ bụghị onye ụka. Ọ sị gị na ya chọrọ ịhụ Jesu. Let me do something I have never done from this altar, except when I'm celebrating with children. I want an answer from any of you. Somebody comes this morning, somebody comes to you and says, I want to see Jesus. What will you do? Young man.
We told him Jesus. I'm a stay at General Chapel.
Amasia Jane Chapel. Okay? Thank you.
I'll tell him about Jesus. Aga m akọwabara ya onye bụ Jesus. Ka o si bịa n'ụwa, ka o si nwụọ, na ihe o ji bịara. Ya onye ga-akọwara ya.
And then one woman. Thank you. This person comes, you don't know him, but you are sure he's not a Christian. He says, I want to see Jesus.
This person must have known about Jesus. So I will look for a person who will draw him nearer to Jesus, because if he's not a Christian, he needs catechism, he needs baptism to be able to come closer to Jesus. So I'll take him to the nearest person, which is the parish priest, I think.
Otito diri Jesu. Now you see our reactions to this are different. And they are bound to be. And honestly, maybe majority of you will answer, I don't know. If somebody confronts me with that today, I don't know what to do. Now let me give you the first suggestion. The 3 answers are correct. They are right steps, but they are all problematic. The first answer says, I'll tell him to go to the chapel, and he will come there and see seats. And he will see something that looks, he sees the cross first of all. No, he will go away. And I don't think he will come back, because there was, you know the story of a boy who was very poor in mathematics in school. His parents a Jewish boy. His parents hired private teachers for him to give him lessons, extra class lesson, out of class lessons in mathematics only. Nothing happened. They punished him, they deprived him of watching television, of holidays, of all his toys to improve on mathematics. Nothing happened. At the end, they sent him from one school to another. Nothing happened. And at last, they decided, against their will, to take him to a Catholic school run by sisters nearby. When the boy came back from school the first day, he locked himself up in the room and would not talk to anybody. After meals, he washed his plates and went back to his room. During holidays, during break, he told the parents he was not going anywhere and locked himself in the room. After the first term exams, he brought his report card, dropped it on his father's dining table, and went back to his room and locked it. And the father came, looked with hands trembling. He opened the report card, mathematics, A. He called the boy. My son, your mother and I, we are very pleased at your result. But how did it happen? You know there are signs in arithmetic. You have plus sign, minus sign, multiplication sign, division sign, brackets, and all those things. Here's the boy. Do the sisters have special mathematics teachers? No. Did they punish you extra? No. What did they do to you? He said, nothing. How come you became suddenly so good at mathematics? He told the parents, the first day you took me to that school, I walked into the classroom and saw that man that they hung on the plus sign. I understood these people don't joke with mathematics. Because if I don't do well, they will hang me like they hang that one on the plus sign. So if you tell the man to go to the chapel and he comes and sees the man hanging on the plus sign, he may not come back. I say he may not. But it's also possible that there he will encounter Christ. Why his answer is also correct? Because he himself, as a believer, encounters Christ in the chapel. So he believes that once he has taken him to the chapel, he has taken him to where he will encounter Christ. Another person said, I will tell him about Christ. That is closer to the answer. Because you will ask yourself, why me? And if you want to take him to any other place and he says, I won't even go further. The question is, use the immediate opportunity to do the least you can and tell the person, show the person you have also encountered Christ. But that presumes you know him. Because many people are talking about Christ when they don't know him yet. They haven't encountered him and they present a wrong image of him. The third person said, I will take him to the person who will bring him closer to Christ. That is close to what Philip did. Because Philip consulted Andrew and two of them. The only thing wrong with that, or not completely right with that, is that it seems you are running away from your own responsibility. So it is better to say, I will accompany him to the person, and we will. Because eventually you may become the sponsor who has brought this person to the priest and accompany that person straight onto baptism. But remember, what did Philip and Andrew do? What did they do? They went and told Jesus. It did not strike any of us that the first thing you have to do on the spot, tell Jesus. On the spot, Lord, this person wants to encounter you. How do I lead him to you? You have to say that prayer. If you are in constant communion, if you know Jesus, that is the first thing you will do. You have to tell him. Because but the thing you must not do is that you cannot judge the person, and you can't miss the opportunity of giving that person the chance of seeing Jesus. If you close the door, that is where there is problem. He too wants to see Jesus. You have a daughter who has abandoned everything you taught her as a child. And now she's even planning to marry a Muslim. She too wants to see Jesus. When my mother was held for 5 days by kidnappers who really wanted to kill her, because when they eventually released her, they left her in the middle of nowhere in the bush with her hands and legs tied and her eyes blindfolded, and they went away. It's a miracle that she's still alive. But all the 5 days she stayed there, she was catechizing the kidnappers and preaching to them. And she kept doing it. Ma ọ bụrụ na unu emechiele gị unu ji m bido, unu emekwetele ya ọzọ na ọ dịghị ọyị. Ha sị ya, mama, ọ bụ oge ọba anyị chọkọ, na-eziri anyị ezi. Ha, eze ogu ji akpụta na onye na ịbịa akpụliri m, inwe gị nne. And they would go away because they couldn't stand the truth. But she was preaching. And of course, they did not listen to her because that same group kidnapped other people, and they were eventually arrested in their attempt to kidnap more. Whether they are still in detention or their sponsors have released them, I don't know. Because of course, you know, many of these kidnappers have very powerful sponsors. But the point I'm making, don't lose the opportunity of your encounter with anybody to lead the person to Jesus. Because he too, she too, they too want to see Jesus. Whether or not they tell you that explicitly. But the place to begin is to tell Jesus about it. The first step in evangelizing activity, the first step in missionary action is prayer. You pray earnestly, and Jesus will then know what to do. Because when he said, now has the hour come for the Son of Man to be glorified, now the seed can die. Now I can die because the ground has been well prepared for it. The seed will now die and it will bear fruit. What Simeon prophesied in Luke chapter 2 verse 32. Glory of your people Israel, and salvation to the light to enlighten the Gentiles and bring glory to your people Israel. Now the hour has come. Now the hour has come when they told him, even Greeks wanted to see him. Some people thought that maybe these Greeks had heard, no, and they wanted to tell him. We don't know why they wanted to see him. But lead people to Jesus. Not like Judas, though. Judas went to see Jesus. When he came with a kiss, those people are already. They didn't say, Judas, we want to see Jesus. No, Judas Genda na agbanyo okpuru mgbe okpuru anyị na meguru meeting na parish council Hegar na azija gbara anyị mgbe okpuru about akatakpa oriokpa aloka or ịkwọ ọnwụ na arọ na ikpo nna. They will discuss with you in the morning, in the evening, have root to pay. That was what Judas was doing. He went to them and said, how much will you give me so that I hand him over to you? And he went and led them to Jesus. That's not it. So many people are hungry for Jesus. They may not express it clearly, but your own encounter with Jesus should let you recognize the desire of other people to have the same encounter. And you should not miss the opportunity of leading all of them to Jesus. Because however evil you may think they are, they too want to see Jesus.